Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Today I thought we'd do a Warpet tier list. Now, a lot of people ask me, hey, what Warpet should they prioritize? And I often refer them to the old tier list I did, but that was like 6 months ago at this point. A lot's changed since then. The meta's changed. We have new heroes, new Warpets, etc. And frankly, a lot of those rankings in that list, they're just not accurate anymore. But I think that once every generation of heroes has concluded, it's probably reasonable to update the list at that point. Because tier list rankings, hey, those things are like, they can be fun to make, they're fun to argue about. But to the extent these things have value, right, the value is that they help guide players where they should focus and where you should make your investment in war pets. Okay, so when we rank these pets, we're going to rank these war pets based on three criteria, right? The first is viability. And right, this is the war pet's current place in the meta as well as its anticipated future. And the way I think about this is ever since we started G2, right, the developers have very clearly tied all the new war pets to specific heroes. Usually one of the new heroes will have some mechanic that supports the particular pet that comes out with them. So if you have a great war pet, but it's tied to a specific hero, or it can only really be effectively used with this one hero, then it's just not a great war pet anymore. All right, the second category we rate these pets in is versatility. This one's pretty straightforward. Like how many heroes and how many roles can the pet function well in, right? And the final category, of course, is power. How strong is the pet? What kind of impact does it have on the battlefield? I think this is very intuitive. Even if you have a pet that can be used forever, if it doesn't do that much on the battlefield, really, how strong is it? Okay, now I'm sure you're generally familiar with how the tier levels work here. We have our trash tier. These are basically the ones you're never going to use. C tier are pets that see limited use in the meta and that I would expect to be phased out in the foreseeable future. Your B tier pets, these are either good pets that see limited use or mediocre pets that see wide use. Your A tier is your strong pets in wide use that I expect to be used for a long time. And the S tier, of course, is your meta defining pets, all right? And I have them sorted by, troop type class here. So let's start with the archers. We have the Snowpeak Rock, right? The Snowpeak, really the Kanara Nico, maybe Kanara Hosk pet. Arguably some use with the G4 archers, but not a ton there. Archers are kind of in a tough place as it is, and I kind of see, Kanara Nico just clinging to the meta. I have this in the C tier at this point. Next, we have the Night Rock, really for Sindri and Freygar. Some limited use with Magze, a little limited use in Flying Marches, but not a ton. Sindri and Freygar still see use, but the reason they still see use is we just don't have a ton of better options if you're an archer player. And I don't think they're the first archers cut, so I do expect the Night Rock to hang on a little bit longer. Like when the G5 archers come out, I think if you're 4 marching archers, you cut Kanaro Nico first. So I think the Night Rock's on the B tier, but at the bottom end of the B tier. The next pet's the Shadow Manticore. Obviously, this is your Magze archer pet. Magze are still super strong, even as a pure archer march, let alone their versatility. And, even though the Shadow Manticore really can't be used with anyone other than Magze, I think Magze are so well entrenched in the meta, going to be with us a long time, that I have the Shadow Manticore in the A tier. Finally, we have the Barbed Manticore. This is your G4 archers. I'm a little disappointed with the G4 archers. Now, having said that, what are our better archer options? Well, Magze is a better option, but after that, what are the better options? I don't think there are any. And so I do think this guy's going to stick around for a while. He's not performing great for me, but he's doing okay. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. So I have him on the B tier and ahead of the Night Rock. All right, so the next pet we have is the Golden Rock. This is really designed for your G1 Cav, Emrys, and Bakshi, and even Alistar all get the Passion buff, which you need to power the Golden Rock. Now, look, Alistar is obviously obsolete at this point, but Emrys and Bakshi are still strong. If you're 5 marching Cav, they're probably going to stick with you for a little while. The other thing about the Golden Rock is that the Generation 4 Cav hero Li Shanyan also gets the Passion buff, which is really interesting design decision to give a G1 mechanic to a G4 hero. I think the upside for that is the Golden Rock is going to stick around for a while. It's a good pet. It's not great, so I have it at the B tier and the top of the B tier. Okay, our next pet is the Berserk Phaedrake. This is really the Ferandil pet. It has very limited use if you don't have Ferandil in your march. It is very strong for him, and we also have that tease that we're getting a bunch of new flying units or heroes pretty soon. So if you're going to use flying cav, right, the Berserk Phage Drake is great for you. If you're just using this as a ground cav with Ferondil, I mean, he's okay. I think he's a lot more enduring than Theodore. And so I do think the Berserk's going to stick around for a bit. Now, it is absolutely not a versatile pet. It really, like I said, it has to be used with Ferondil. So I think this caps out at the B tier, above the Night Rock, but I'd put it below the Barbed Manticore. Our next pet is the Blade Manticore. This is really kind of the Urag pet, but it is a bit more, how can I say, versatile in that it can be used basically with any hero. It wants your hero to hit multiple targets, and a lot of Cav heroes do that. None as good as Urag. The downside with the Blade Manticore is it just always underperforms for me. I always am very underwhelmed by the output of this pet, and so I just always thought that Urag, one of his biggest weaknesses is his pet just isn't that strong even when you build it out. So I think the Blade Manticore is going to stick around for a while, but not as a particularly strong pet. So I have it on the B tier, kind of right near the Berserker Phage Drake. And finally, we have our G4 Cav pet, the Auric Warhound. This thing is very strong. It's also not versatile at all. It really, really needs Nea. If you don't have Nea, you're going to struggle to power its abilities. However, if you do build this out and do put it with Nea, man, it hits like a truck. It is very strong. It's one of the strongest pets I have, and I'm always impressed by the damage output it gives me. Look, I don't think the G4 Cav are going anywhere anytime soon, in particular Nea. So I have this on the A tier, but below the Shadow Manticore. All right, let's turn to our tank pets, and we'll start with the Friendship Bear. The Friendship Bear basically gives you extra hit points whenever you heal, so it's a Garwood pet. And, you know, a couple of weeks ago, I might have put this in the trash tier. However, we've seen that Garwood has a particular use in the row meta. And if you're building out a pet specifically for that Garwood Kuma March, I'd at least think about a Friendship Bear, right? It's not going to do any damage, but it is one of the pets that can help you survive the most. I'm not sure it's the best, but I'll keep it at the C tier for now. All right, then we got the Frost Bear. The Frost Bear really wants your heroes to have shields. The main hero there is Madeline, right? Obviously, Madeline used to be an infantry hero. Now she's an overall hero, but I still kind of use her as my emergency infantry march. But I think at this point, like, Madeline infantry is just really kind of obsolete compared to our G2, G3, and especially G4 infantry. So if you're spamming infantry, if you're sending 4 or 5 infantry out there, hey, maybe Madeline's still going out for you. Otherwise, I think she's on the bench. I have this kind of at the bottom of C tier. Okay, next we got the Bruin Bear. Boy, the Bruin Bear is on tough times. There was a time when the Bruin Bear was arguably the strongest pet in the game because it really supported the Gorish, Skullgulg, or Gorish whoever rally. Those days have passed. The Bruin Bear is outclassed by other infantry pet for the open field, and it's outclassed by other infantry pets for the rally garrison meta. If someone tells me they're building out a Bruin Bear, I say, like, that I think building a Bruin Bear at this point in the game is just a mistake. I would not do this. Now, you already have one built out. It's not wrong to send it out with your Gorish Skullgirl March or, you know, basically Gorish anything March. So it still does see some play. But I kind of think the Bruin's days are numbers, and that's a C tier. Now, where on the C tier, I have it ahead of the Friendship Bear, but below the Snowpeak. The last time I did this list, I said the Moon Bear was the strongest pet in the game. What's happened since then? Well, we've had new infantry heroes, an update to the Rally Garrison meta, and now the Moon Bear is no longer the unquestioned king of the Rally Garrison fight. Okay, so downside, we have the Moss Rock, which we'll talk about in a second, which is really paired with Kuma. However, the Moon Bear is still pretty strong, right? If you have the G3 infantry heroes, either Magro or Danfeld, the Moon Bear works fine with them. And the Moon Bear actually works really well with Lei Quan. And the other thing is the Moon Bear can also be used as a backup Cav pet, in particular with Urag. And so I think the Moon Bear is still pretty strong. It's just no longer dominant. So that puts it at A tier, and I actually think it's at the top of A tier, even ahead of the Shadow Manticore. All right, now we got the Moss Rock. Okay, I think the Moss Rock is probably the strongest pet in the game right now. And the reason that I think that is the Moss Rock is the one pet that works perfectly with Kuma. Okay, so you know I just said that the Moon Bear works great with Lei Quan, the Moss Rock works great with Kuma, So one pet works great with one G4 infantry hero, and the other pet works great with the other G4 infantry hero. So why do I think the Mossrock is so strong? It's basically because Kuma is so strong, right? All right, not only is Kuma just super strong on the open field, but he is an integral part of every rally, and he's an integral part of every garrison at the top end right now. And so even though you have the Moonbear that works great with one infantry hero, which is part of the rally, this guy works great with the rally and the garrison and your rogue garrison and your open field. It's the best pet in the game right now. If you're an infantry player and you're trying to build a new pet and you have any inclination to ever do a rally or a garrison, I would encourage you to build a Mossrock. Okay, let's turn to our magic pets. Our first pet is the worst pet. It's the Thunder Lizard. It's trash. Never build this thing. It does single target damage that just isn't that impressive. The other thing about the Thunder Lizard is this is the only pet in the game that doesn't have a dedicated pet shop skill for whatever reason. Maybe one day they'll give it some interesting pet shop skill and we'll talk again. But right now, hey, just never build a Thunder Lizard. The next lizard we have is the Ice Lizard, and this pet is also trash. However, to be fair, it does have one limited niche use. This thing can keep enemy legions out of buildings, right? It can stop city hoppers, it can stop bastion reinforcements, it can stop rally reinforcements. It doesn't really do a great job at that, but everything helps. So just have a couple of these sitting around ready to go when you need to, stop those people from reinforcing the bastions. I'm going to keep it on the trash tier, but it is at least better than the Thunder Lizard. Our final first generation mage pet is the Sapphire Phaedrake. And you know what I think about the Sapphire. The Sapphire is awesome, right? The Sapphire works with any mage march. Now, its pet shop skill, Intense Pain Bloom, is tied to the Generation 1 heroes. But you can just get around that by just not taking the Intense Pain Bloom skill. And you can still have 3 intelligence skills on the pet, so it works perfectly fine. It does more AoE damage than anyone, and it does single target damage with the best of them. You really do kind of need 310 Spirit on the Sapphire, and you really kind of do need the Amber skill to unlock its potential. But if you have with that, it's great. It does the most AoE damage. It works with any mage march. That sounds like an S tier pet for me. Okay, so let's talk about the Shadow Phaedrake. This is really the pet for Burt Tohar. It specifically helps you do single target damage and enhances your hero's damage. Burt and Tohar, they're still in the mage march right now, but they're not so strongly entrenched that you couldn't see them getting cut in a generation or two. So I'm a little bit weary there. A couple good things about the Shadow Phaedrake. It does seem to be like if you use Gromora by herself, the Shadow Phaedrake might be the best pet for just Gromora, because it really would boost her damage. And by herself, the Flaming Manticore doesn't work very well. The other thing is if you're using mage rallies, I do think the Shadow Phaedrake is your best bet. So I have this still at the B tier, but kind of in the middle of the B tier. Okay, now we got the Seraphic. This is your G3 mage pet. I've never been a fan of the Seraphic. You can watch half a dozen videos when I'm talking bad about it. The last thing that's happened to the Seraphic is the G3 mages. They're kind of getting split up right now. One's going with Young Ming, one's going with Gromora, and I wouldn't use the Seraphic with either of them. I have this guy in the C tier. But he's ahead of the Friendship Bear at least. Okay, the Flaming Manticore. Nice pet, very strong, does a lot of damage if you build it out. Here's the downside. It really can only be used with Young Ming or maybe Tohar if you want to go that route. Now, Young Ming's not going anywhere anytime soon. In my opinion, right now, Young Ming is the strongest mage hero in the game. So this guy's viable for a long time. But his lack of versatility kind of holds him back a bit. So I have him on the A tier, kind of ahead of the Auric, but behind the Shadow Manticore. Okay, that's the last mage pet. The last two pets we have are the generic pets. The first we have the Sand Lizard. Sand Lizard can work with anything. Now, the heal, it does work better with ranged units. So we're talking archers or mages or even Elf Cav. But the fact that it can work with any ranged hero very well makes this an extremely versatile pet. This is really the case for versatile but not that strong, because even though it can work with any hero, the effect just isn't that impressive. So I have this on the B tier, kind of in the middle of the B tier. It's always a safe pick. It's never that impressive of a pick. Okay, finally we got the Poison Lizard. Now the Poison Lizard can work with any march. You can literally put this on any mage, cav, archer, whatever. But really this is an infantry pet. And the reason it's an infantry pet is you really want it on a march that's going to live a long time and get hit a lot. The great thing about the Poison Lizard is it's got no range limitation. So there's a strong case to be made that this is better than any other infantry pet for open field purposes. All right. This is not a good rally garrison pet. Really, you have a lot of better options for the rally garrison. But if that's not what you're looking for, if you're just looking for an open field pet, you can never go wrong with the Poison Lizard. And the great thing is the Poison Lizard's still going to work fine when the G5, G6, G7 infantry heroes come out, assuming the game lives that long. So I think this is on the A tier, and I actually have it above the Auric as a strong pet right now. It's never wrong to work on a Poison Lizard. All right, hey, that's where I got the pets ranked right now at the end of Generation 4. If you were starting a new account today or just starting a new Warpet today and didn't know what to do, I would look towards the top of this list because this list is really looking towards long-term viability as well as the strength of the pet. And I think you'd want to choose something either in the S class or the A class, obviously depending on the hero you're looking to support and the type of troops you're going to use. All right, and hey, that's all I got for you today. And until next time, you stay classy, Belleron.